Imagine Spartacus, the infamous gladiator-turned-rebel leader, standing amidst the ruins of a world he sought to overthrow. His demeanor is fierce, a tempestuous blend of defiance and ruthless resolve. His voice, though marked by the weariness of countless battles, carries the weight of his brutal deeds with an unrepentant pride. As he recounts the moments that forged his legacy, the raw brutality of his rebellion becomes vividly apparent. A reflection of a man who wielded violence not merely as a weapon, but as a philosophy of liberation through destruction. The massacre at Mount Vesuvius. With a voice steeped in grim satisfaction, Spartacus begins. When my rebellion first ignited among the trembling souls of the arena, we took refuge in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius. The Roman legions, confident in their superiority, came to crush us with the weight of their legions. Yet I was not content to merely defend. I sought to make an example of their arrogance. We ambushed them with the fury of 1,000 storms, and their blood flowed like rivers upon the ash-covered earth. The carnage was so complete, so absolute, that even the Romans themselves recoiled in horror. Their corpses were left to rot under the sun, a ghastly reminder that our defiance came at a cost they were unprepared to bear. The siege and slaughter of Capua. His eyes flash with a fierce light as he speaks of the city that fell before his wrath. Capua, a city of excess and decadence, was ripe for the reckoning that only we could deliver. Once we breached their walls, there was no mercy to be found. We swept through the streets like a scourge, our swords unrelenting in their dance of death. We spared no one. Men, women, and children were all cast into the embrace of our steel. The fires we set consumed their homes and their hopes, their screams echoing through the night. In their destruction, we carved a new path for the oppressed and showed the Romans that their safety was but an illusion. The execution of the slaves. A cold edge punctuates his words as he recalls the harsh measures taken to ensure loyalty among his ranks. Not all who followed me were driven by the purity of our cause. Among us were those whose hearts wavered, who sought to betray our struggle for personal gain. To root out the seeds of treachery, I enacted a harsh judgment. Those who faltered were executed without hesitation. Their deaths were not swift, but deliberate, an object lesson in the cost of betrayal. Their bodies were left on display, a grim tableau for all to see. In their demise, I reaffirmed the price of disloyalty, a brutal end that served as a clear deterrent to those who would dare to undermine our fight. The slaughter at the Battle of the Salaris River. His voice resonates with a grim triumph as he speaks of this brutal confrontation. When we clashed with the Roman forces at the Salaris River, it was not merely a battle, it was a bloodbath. I commanded our forces with ruthless precision, cutting down every Roman soldier who dared to stand against us. The river ran red with their blood, and the air was thick with the stench of death. We left no survivors, no prisoners, only a field strewn with the mangled remains of those who underestimated our resolve. It was a statement of our might, a clear message that our rebellion would not be easily quenched. The destruction of the Roman garrison at Petelia. His voice takes on a tone of grim satisfaction as he recounts the fate of the defenders. Petelia, a garrison that had once stood proud against us, met a fate of unparalleled brutality. Once we breached their defenses, we exacted a vengeance that left no room for mercy. The soldiers and their families were slaughtered in a manner both meticulous and merciless. We showed no quarter, no leniency. The city was razed to the ground, its ruins a testament to the ferocity of our rebellion. The Romans learned that our wrath was boundless, and that their outposts would not stand as barriers to our freedom. The execution of the Roman hostages. His tone darkens as he recalls this particularly ruthless act. To further our cause, we captured several Roman hostages, men of importance, held for leverage. Yet when their pleas for mercy came, I responded with cold indifference. Each hostage was executed in a manner designed to break the spirit of those who would negotiate with us. Their deaths were public, meant to be as humiliating as they were final. We left their bodies hanging from the city walls, a grim reminder that our fight was not bound by the rules of conventional warfare, but by a desire to dismantle the very structure of oppression. The devastation of the Roman supply lines. His eyes gleam with the cruel satisfaction of a strategist who knows the power of suffering. Our campaign was not solely one of direct confrontation. We knew that strangling the enemy's supply lines would bring them to their knees. We raided and plundered with a vengeance, leaving behind scorched earth and empty granaries. The Romans, accustomed to their luxuries and comforts, were forced to face the harsh reality of a war that left their people starving and desperate. We turned their resources against them, ensuring that their suffering was as prolonged as it was total. As Spartacus finishes recounting his ruthless deeds, the weight of his actions hangs heavily in the air. His narrative, marked by a stark and unapologetic cruelty, reveals a leader who saw barbarity not as a necessary evil, but as a tool of liberation and defiance. In his mind, these acts were not mere brutality. They were the necessary instruments of revolution, a harsh yet deliberate force meant to topple an empire and secure freedom through sheer unrelenting might.